I never thought I would talk about a virus on my podcast. Recession, maybe, but not a virus. But here we are. At the time of the recording of this episode, there are 65 confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Iceland and 500 people in self-isolation. A country with a population of only 350,000 inhabitants. And this is just the beginning. Coronavirus spreads 3 times faster than the flu. Typical flu spreads from 1 person to 1.3 people. The coronavirus spreads from 1 person to 2 to 4 people. Out of the 65 cases in Iceland, 52 got the virus on a ski trip in the Alps, most of them in northern Italy. Italy got the virus originally from a person traveling in from Wuhan, China to Milan, Italy, and the Italian authorities were not prepared and let this person wait 36 hours for a diagnosis in the emergency room after he got sick. And it took another 4 hours after he got diagnosed until he was put into quarantine. By then, it was too late. The virus had spread in Italy, and now the whole country is in lockdown. 60 million people. Out of the 65 cases currently in Iceland at the time of this recording, 13 got the virus from the people who had been skiing abroad. And they got infected either through droplets, when someone who is infected coughs, or by touching a surface that has droplets. Last week, a taxi driver drove 4 people from the airport to Reykjavik and got infected, even though the people didn't show any symptoms of sickness. Another person who got sick didn't interact personally with anyone from the ski trips, but visited a home where someone from a ski trip lived. Currently, Iceland is number 2 in the world, with 19.5 infected per 100,000 inhabitants, whereas Italy has 15 infected per 100,000 inhabitants. The difference is that no one has died in Iceland yet, and Italy has already had 483 deaths. In the US, 0.19 per 100,000 inhabitants are reported to be affected, with 43 deaths. This can only mean that both Italy and US are underreporting their cases, or they basically have no clue about all the sick people in their country. The Icelandic authorities have warned us that this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Their key focus is to slow down the spread of the virus. They know they cannot stop it completely, but they need to slow it down in order to be able to take care of the sick people and prevent the sickest ones from getting it and dying. In the end, 30 to 70% of the population may get the coronavirus, according to a brand new report from McKinsey. But it's important that our healthcare system doesn't collapse, and that is why it's paramount to slow down the spread of the virus. I have a very personal reason for wanting to slow down the spread of the virus, and that is to protect my parents from getting sick. My dad has cancer, and he is over 70 years old. All the data shows that people over 70 with underlying diseases have the greatest risk of dying from the coronavirus. I also have an underlying disease myself with severe asthma, and knowing that the coronavirus attacks the lungs does make me worried. Also, my husband has a history of pneumonia, and I want to make sure that he doesn't get sick either. In order to slow down the spread of the virus, we need to listen to the health authorities. Washing your hands, use hand sanitizer if you cannot wash your hands, not touch your face, keep 1 meter distance to other people, no handshakes or hugging, and if you start to feel sick, then you self-isolate and call the health authorities to figure out if you've got the normal flu or the coronavirus. Ideally, you have yourself tested, and in most European countries, you can do that easily and for free. In Iceland, a private company is going to screen everyone who wants to be tested for free next week. That way, people will easily know if they need to self-isolate or not. Together, we can make sure that the healthcare system doesn't collapse, because the worst case scenario is if we cannot take care of the sick people that really need help. I don't want anyone to die just because someone else didn't self-isolate or wash their hands. Slowing down the spread of the virus has an economical consequence. That means a looming recession, even though nobody wants to use that word. The first industries to be hit are airlines, hotels, restaurants, and any kind of event companies. Just today, I read about a catering company that lost 6 clients in one day. One cancellation came 6 hours before the event, and all the food and staff was ready. That is a shock for the catering company, but not just for that company, but for everyone else who is connected to that company. And this is before the Icelandic authorities put a ban on events, which is going to happen as soon as we have the first death case. Then Iceland is likely to ban events above 1,000 people, just like Switzerland and France have done. And they might even ban events all the way down to 15 people. Most companies and organizations in Iceland have already cancelled all larger events for March and April. In the US, South by Southwest was cancelled the other day, and today, the first time ever, Tony Robbins has cancelled a 12,000 people UPW event. At the same time, many conferences and events in the UK and US are not being cancelled. And to be honest, I find that very irresponsible. The virus is spreading like wildfire, and holding an event in the next few months is nothing but selfish. That brings me to my event, the Self-Made Summit. It is with utmost regret that I've decided to postpone the Self-Made Summit to June 2021. In the best case scenario, the coronavirus will be gone in the spring. And in the worst case scenario, it will go until end of the year. In the currently most likely scenario, we'll have to deal with the coronavirus until end of the summer, and that includes June. Therefore, I have no choice but to postpone my conference. Making a decision like this is not easy, but as a leader and a CEO of your business, it is always better to be proactive than reactive. Proactive means that you look at the options and take a decision. You have no guarantee that your decision is right at the time you take it, but it's better to take a decision than no decision. Before I started my own business, I was a successful turnaround CEO. In a turnaround, you have no time to think endlessly about all options, and you will never have all the information you need. You just look at all the options you have currently at that point in time, and then you take a decision. And the big decisions are hard to take. You might have sleepless nights or two. You may discuss with many people, or like me, read a lot of scientific articles about the coronavirus. But then you take a decision and you stick to it. I am glad to have taken a decision now, about 100 days before the planned conference. The safety of my attendees, speakers, and team is of utmost importance, and I will never ever risk the health of anyone for my financial gain. Ticket holders will have received an email by the time this episode is released, and together we will be looking forward to an epic conference in 2020, one without coronavirus. Coming back to the looming recession. Besides event companies, we will see vulnerabilities in the supply chain where companies that rely on goods from China will not be able to deliver their goods. Oil prices have already dropped, although that was only indirectly related to the coronavirus. Next is less export and import, which means some goods will just not be available and others will have less demand. Finally, we'll see issues with consumer electronics and other technology equipment where parts will not be in stock due to halt of production in China. This is starting to sound like a very depressing episode, but here is the good news. There is always an opportunity in a downturn. Actually, it is the best time to start a business. It is a time where the most creative startups get founded. It is a time where people reassess what they want to do in their life and make better choices that make them happier. It is a time where many go back to school or do continuous education. Maybe they learn how to start an online business. Just look at all the opportunities that are available right now. Imagine you are in the hand sanitizer business. Wow, you are suddenly a gazillionaire overnight. Or if you make toilet paper or any kind of food that holds 2 weeks or longer. I heard of one company in Iceland yesterday that makes data loggers for animals. and is having the biggest business of their entire history since the vaccine companies need those data lockers to develop a vaccine for the coronavirus. But since you're listening to this episode and my podcast, you're probably not in the manufacturing business, and you're more likely to have or want to have an online business. This is a high season for online businesses and consultants that help employees work from home or train virtual teams on how to be more productive. Employees around the world are now being asked to work from home, and many of them don't know how. Companies who have never done this before will be asking for guidance on how to make this work, especially when it goes on beyond a week or two, which is very, very likely. What will then happen is that some of these employees will not want to go back into the office, but instead they will want to start their own business and work from home. And that's exactly how I started my own business. I was working for a company where I could work from home, and I realized that I never wanted to work in an office again. So I started my own business. A recession is a time of opportunity, if you choose to see it that way. I was able to find opportunities in 2002 when we had the dot-com crash. I was also able to find opportunities in 2009, right after the financial crash. It is by no doubt that the coronavirus is a bad thing. But what is happening as a result of the coronavirus is not necessarily a bad thing. A recession gives you a chance to be proactive before your company needs a turnaround. If your company is already losing money or it's hit badly by the recession already, then I would love to chat. I was a turnaround CEO for many years before I started my own business, and I love to help business owners turn around their businesses. This is an invitation to send me an email and see if I can help you. There is always an opportunity in any crisis. The key is to take a decision before it is too late. And that's what I've done with the Self-Made Summit. I'm looking forward to see you in Reykjavik in June 2021.